The lipstick stain on his collar was cherry red, the same shade that would later tremble in my boardroom as she begged for her job. My name is Victoria Hale, and I am about to tell you a story that will make your blood boil, your heart race, and ultimately, leave you believing that sometimes the universe has a twisted sense of justice that no Hollywood script could ever match. I thought I had everything figured out. 10 years of marriage. A corner office with my name etched in gold letters. A house in the hills that magazine photographers begged to feature. Success that I had clawed my way to with bleeding fingernails and sleepless nights. But none of that prepared me for the moment when my entire world would implode with 4 simple words. The morning it all began, I woke up to silence. Not the comfortable silence of a Sunday morning, but the suffocating silence of a man who could not bear to look at the woman sleeping beside him. Michael was already dressed, his back turned to me as he fumbled with his tie. Something was wrong. Terribly, devastatingly wrong. For months, I had watched my husband disappear piece by piece. The man who used to bring me coffee in bed now barely grunted good morning. The hands that once traced my skin with worship now pulled away when I reached for him. The eyes that used to light up when I walked into a room now found every excuse to look elsewhere. I told myself it was work stress. I convinced myself it was his midlife crisis. I made every excuse in the book because the alternative was too horrifying to consider. But deep down, in that dark place where women hide their worst fears, I knew. I knew before I found the evidence. I knew before he confessed. I knew because when you love someone for 10 years, you can feel their betrayal in your bones. The cherry red lipstick stain appeared on a Tuesday. Not on his lips where it might have been explained away by a quick kiss goodbye. Not on his face where it could have been an innocent accident. It was on his collar. Deliberately placed. Possessively marked. A territory claim that made my stomach turn to acid. I stood in our walk-in closet, holding that shirt in my trembling hands, and I felt something inside me shatter. Not my heart. That would come later. What shattered was my naive belief that the man I had built my life around would never destroy me so completely. When I confronted him that evening, Michael could not even look at me. He sat on the edge of our bed. Our marital bed where we had whispered promises and planned our future. And his shoulders shook with what I thought was remorse. I was wrong. It was relief. Relief that his secret was finally out. Victoria, he began, and I knew from the tone that whatever came next would end us. I love you. I will always love you. But I cannot deny it anymore. My throat closed. My vision blurred. The room started spinning as I waited for the words that would kill the woman I used to be. I have fallen for someone else. Someone else. 2 words that became a wrecking ball, demolishing 10 years of shared dreams, inside jokes, anniversary dinners, and quiet Sunday mornings. 2 words that reduced me from wife to obstacle, from partner to past tense. She is younger, he continued, as if that detail would somehow soften the blow. As if reducing me to an expired model would make his betrayal more palatable. She makes me feel alive again. Alive. As if our 10 years together had been a slow death. As if every moment we had shared, every laugh, every tear, every whispered confession in the dark, had been nothing more than him slowly suffocating in the prison of our love. I asked him her name, though part of me died not wanting to know. Zara, he whispered. Her name is Zara. Zara. Young, fresh, uncomplicated Zara. 26 years old to my 38. Probably full of energy and spontaneity, and all the things that marriage and responsibility had supposedly drained from me. Probably everything I was not, could not be, would never be again. That night, Michael packed a suitcase while I sat on our living room sofa, staring at the photo albums scattered across the coffee table. Pictures of our wedding day, our anniversary trips, the housewarming party when we first moved in together. All of it felt like evidence from a crime scene now. Evidence of a life that had been murdered by desire and selfishness, and the cruel mathematics of age. He paused at the front door, his suitcase in hand, and for a moment I thought he might change his mind. I thought he might drop that bag and run to me and beg forgiveness and promise to fight for us. Instead he said, "I am sorry, Victoria. I never meant for this to happen." The door closed behind him with a soft click that echoed through our empty house like a gunshot. I sat there for hours after he left, surrounded by the ghosts of our life together. The silence was deafening. It pressed against my eardrums until I thought my head would explode. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw every dish in our kitchen against the walls. I wanted to burn the bed where he had made love to me while thinking of her. Instead, I poured myself a glass of wine and began planning my survival. The next few weeks blurred together in a haze of divorce lawyers and sleepless nights. I threw myself into work with the desperation of a drowning woman clinging to driftwood. My company became my lifeline. My meetings became my therapy, and my success became my armor against the whispers and pitying looks from friends who thought I was too old to start over. Michael tried calling, tried texting, tried showing up at my office with flowers and apologies and promises that Zara was just a phase. But I knew better. A man does not destroy his marriage for a phase. He does it for a woman who makes him forget that he ever loved his wife. I blocked his number and changed the locks and began the slow, agonizing process of learning how to be alone. 3 months after Michael left, I was preparing for our quarterly review meeting. As CEO of Hartwell Dynamics, I made it a point to personally welcome new hires, especially those joining our executive team. It was a tradition I had started 5 years ago, believing that personal connection drove company loyalty. My assistant knocked on my office door at precisely 9 a.m. "Mrs. Hale, your new executive assistant is here for the introduction meeting." I looked up from my quarterly reports, straightening my blazer and mentally preparing for another round of corporate pleasantries. We had been through 3 assistants in the past 6 months. The first quit after 2 weeks, claiming the pace was too demanding. The second lasted a month before deciding she wanted to pursue her passion for photography. The third simply stopped showing up. I needed someone reliable, someone professional, someone who could handle the pressure of working directly under a CEO who had recently developed a reputation for being particularly demanding since her personal life imploded. "Send them in," I called out, not bothering to look up from my paperwork. The door opened. Footsteps crossed my carpet. A chair scraped against the floor as my new assistant sat down across from my desk. "Good morning, Mrs. Hale. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I am really excited to." I looked up. The words died in her throat. The file folder slipped from my fingers, paper scattering across my desk like falling snow. Sitting across from me, in a conservative black suit with her hair pulled back in a professional bun, was Zara. The woman who had destroyed my marriage. The woman Michael had left me for. The woman whose cherry red lipstick had marked my husband as conquered territory. She was here, in my office, applying to work for me. The silence stretched between us like a taut wire ready to snap. Zara's face had drained of all color, her professional composure crumbling as recognition dawned. Her hands shook as she gripped the arms of her chair, and I could see her throat working as she tried to swallow her shock. I smiled. Not a warm, welcoming CEO smile. Not a polite, professional smile. I smiled like a predator who had just spotted wounded prey. "Well," I said, my voice steady as granite, "this is interesting." Zara opened her mouth, then closed it. Opened it again. No sound came out. She looked exactly like a fish pulled from water, gasping and helpless and completely at my mercy. I leaned back in my leather chair, studying her face. She was beautiful, I had to admit. The kind of fresh-faced, dewy-skinned beauty that made men forget their responsibilities and marriages and decades of shared history. The kind of beauty that was temporary, fleeting, but devastating in its prime. "You know," I continued, picking up her resume and pretending to read it, "your qualifications are quite impressive. MBA from Northwestern. 3 years of executive assistant experience. Excellent references." Zara finally found her voice, though it came out as barely more than a whisper. "Mrs. Hale, I had no idea you worked here. I never would have applied if I had known." "If you had known what?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "If you had known that the woman whose husband you stole was the CEO of the company you desperately needed a job with." She flinched as if I had slapped her. Good. I wanted her to feel every word like a physical blow. It was not. She stammered, her composure completely shattered. "It was not what?" I pressed, enjoying her discomfort more than I probably should have. "It was not intentional. It was not meant to happen. It was not your fault that a married man decided to throw away 10 years for a younger model. Tears welled up in her eyes, but I felt no sympathy. This woman had cried in my husband's arms while he told her how unhappy he was in his marriage. This woman had let him buy her dinner and jewelry, and probably lingerie with the money from our joint account. This woman had listened to him complain about his boring, older wife who no longer excited him. Please, she whispered. I need this job. I know how this looks, but I am desperate. I have been unemployed for 2 months. I am about to lose my apartment. I have student loans and credit card debt and... Stop, I said, holding up my hand. Just stop. She fell silent, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. I stared at her for a long moment, letting her squirm in the uncomfortable silence. Part of me wanted to stand up, march around my desk, and throw her out of my office. Part of me wanted to call security and have her escorted from the building. Part of me wanted to make her beg, and then crush her anyway, just to watch her world crumble the way mine had. But a larger part of me, the part that had clawed its way to the top of a male-dominated industry, the part that had survived a devastating betrayal and come out swinging, saw something else entirely. I saw opportunity. I saw justice. I saw karma served on a silver platter. You need this job, I said finally. Yes, she breathed, hope flickering in her eyes. And I need an assistant who will work harder than anyone else. Someone who will be completely dedicated to this company, to this position, to me. Someone who understands that failure is not an option. Yes, absolutely. I will work harder than anyone. I promise. I leaned forward, my elbows on my desk, my fingers steepled. Here is what is going to happen, Zara. I am going to give you this job. You will report directly to me. You will handle my schedule, my correspondence, my meetings, my travel arrangements. You will work late when I need you to work late. You will come in early when I need you to come in early. You will be available when I need you to be available. Relief flooded her features. Thank you, Mrs. Hale. Thank you so much. I will not let you down. I am not finished, I said, and she immediately fell silent again. You will also understand that your personal life cannot, and will not interfere with your professional responsibilities. I do not care who you are dating, who you are living with, or what drama you have going on outside these walls. When you are here, you belong to me. The words hung in the air between us, loaded with meaning that went far beyond a typical employer-employee relationship. She nodded quickly. Of course. I understand completely. Do you? I asked. Because the man you are involved with is going to want your attention. He is going to want you to take time off, to leave early, to put him first. And you will tell him no. Every single time. Because I own your time now. I own your energy. I own your focus. Understanding dawned in her eyes. She knew exactly what I was telling her. She knew that this job came with strings attached, that accepting my offer meant accepting a year of penance for destroying my marriage. I understand, she said quietly. Excellent. You start Monday, 8 a.m. sharp. Do not be late. She stood on shaking legs, gathering her purse and portfolio. Thank you again, Mrs. Hale. I promise you would not regret this. I watched her walk toward the door, then called out just as she reached for the handle. Oh, and Zara? She turned back, her hand frozen on the door handle. Welcome to Hartwell Dynamics. I think we are going to work very well together. The door closed behind her with a soft click, and I sat back in my chair, feeling truly satisfied for the first time in months. The irony was delicious. The woman who had stolen my husband was now going to be my employee. She would fetch my coffee, organize my schedule, and sit in meetings where I made decisions that shaped the entire company. She would watch me succeed, watch me thrive, watch me prove that I was so much more than the discarded wife she and Michael had made me out to be. For the next year, Zara worked under me with the dedication of someone who knew her entire future depended on my satisfaction. She arrived early and stayed late. She anticipated my needs before I voiced them. She handled my most demanding clients with grace and efficiency. And every single day, I watched her struggle with the weight of our shared history. Michael called her constantly. I could see her phone lighting up during meetings, could watch her face tense with conflict as she let call after call go to voicemail. He wanted her to take time off for romantic getaways. He wanted her to leave work early for dinner dates. He wanted her to put their relationship first, the way he had expected me to do for 10 years. But now she could not. I owned her schedule. I owned her time. I owned her energy. I am sorry, Mr. Hale. I heard her say during one particularly heated phone conversation that I definitely was not supposed to overhear. I cannot leave work early today. Mrs. Hale has scheduled a board meeting that will run until at least 7 p.m. I smiled to myself as I listened to her explain that she could not prioritize his needs over her professional responsibilities. The same professional responsibilities that he had always expected me to abandon whenever he wanted my attention. The same professional responsibilities that had built the comfortable life he had been so eager to leave behind for his exciting new romance. As months passed, I watched their relationship strain under the pressure of reality. Michael had fallen in love with a fantasy, a young, available woman who would make him the center of her universe. Instead, he got a woman who worked 12-hour days and fell asleep exhausted on his couch, too tired for the passion and spontaneity he had craved. He got a woman whose phone calls were interrupted by work emergencies. He got a woman who could not take vacations because her demanding boss required her constant availability. He got a woman who was slowly becoming everything he had claimed to hate about our marriage: career-focused, tired, and unavailable. The difference was that now he was the one begging for attention instead of receiving it unconditionally. I, meanwhile, was thriving. My company posted record profits that year. I was featured on the cover of Business Weekly as CEO of the Year. I bought a penthouse apartment that overlooked the city like a queen surveying her kingdom. Every success felt like vindication. Every achievement proved that I was not the dried-up, boring housewife that Michael had traded in for a newer model. I was a force of nature, a success story, a woman who had turned her devastation into domination. And every day Zara had to witness it. She had to schedule the interviews where magazines wanted to feature my success. She had to coordinate the photo shoots where photographers captured my confidence and power. She had to handle the calls from other CEOs who wanted to collaborate with the woman who had become the talk of the industry. The woman whose husband had left her for someone younger and supposedly better. One evening, as we were working late on a presentation for a major client, Zara finally broke. "Mrs. Hale," she said quietly, her voice barely audible over the hum of the office air conditioning. "Yes," I replied, not looking up from my laptop. "I owe you an apology. For everything. For what happened with Michael. For the pain I caused. For destroying your marriage." I stopped typing and looked at her. Really looked at her. She had lost weight over the past year. The stress of our working relationship, combined with the strain on her personal life, had carved hollows under her eyes and sharp angles where soft curves used to be. She was still beautiful, but it was a harder beauty now. A tired beauty. A beauty that had been tested by reality and found wanting. "Are you apologizing because you are sorry?" I asked. "Or because you want me to make your life easier?" "I am apologizing because I am sorry," she said, and I believed her. I was selfish and thoughtless, and I convinced myself that love justified everything. But it did not. Love does not justify destroying someone else's life. I considered her words, turning them over in my mind like stones in my palm. "You are right," I said finally. "Love does not justify destruction. But you know what else love does not justify? A man abandoning his wife of 10 years because someone younger and more exciting came along." "You are right about that too," she admitted. "Michael, he is not the man I thought he was. The man I fell in love with was attentive and romantic, and made me feel like the center of his universe. But now you realize that a man who will cheat on his wife will eventually grow bored with his mistress too?" She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "He wants me to quit. He wants me to find another job. Somewhere that would not require so much of my time. He says I have changed, that I am not fun anymore, that work has made me cold and distant." "And what did you tell him?" "I told him that this job is the best thing that ever happened to me. That working for you has taught me what real strength looks like. That watching you succeed after everything he put you through has shown me what it means to turn pain into power." I felt something shift inside my chest. Not forgiveness, exactly, but something softer than the cold fury that had sustained me for the past year. Zara, I said gently, you do not owe me your entire life as penance for one terrible decision. Maybe not, she replied, wiping her eyes. But I owe you my respect. And my gratitude. And my promise that I will never again be the kind of woman who helps a man betray his wife. That night, I went home to my penthouse and poured myself a glass of wine, and thought about forgiveness. Not the kind of forgiveness that excused behavior or erased consequences, but the kind that freed the forgiver from carrying poison in her heart. 2 weeks later, my phone rang at 11 p.m. Michael's name appeared on the screen, and for the first time in over a year, I answered. Victoria, he said, and I could hear the desperation in his voice. The same desperation I had felt when he walked out our front door with that suitcase. Can we talk? Please. I made a terrible mistake. I waited for the surge of satisfaction I had imagined feeling when this moment finally came. Instead, I felt nothing. No anger. No vindication. No desire for revenge. Just emptiness where all those toxic emotions used to live. What do you want, Michael? I asked. I want to come home. I want to fix this. I want us to try again. Why? The question came out genuinely curious rather than accusatory. Because I love you. Because I never stopped loving you. Because what I had with Zara was not real. It was just fantasy and infatuation and midlife crisis wrapped up in a pretty package. And now the package is not as pretty anymore? I asked. Silence stretched between us. She is not you, Victoria. She does not challenge me or inspire me or make me want to be better the way you did. She is just young. And that is not enough to build a life on. I walked to my floor-to-ceiling windows and looked out at the city sparkling below me. My city. The city where I had built my empire from the ground up. You are right, I said. She is not me. She is someone who made a terrible mistake and has spent the past year trying to atone for it. She is someone who has worked harder for my forgiveness than you ever worked for my love. Victoria, please. I am not finished, I interrupted, and he fell silent. You left me, Michael. You destroyed our marriage because you were bored and selfish and thought you deserved something better. You made me feel like I was not enough, like our 10 years together meant nothing, like I was just an obstacle to your happiness. I was wrong. I was so wrong, and I am sorry. I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you if you let me. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. No, I said simply. No. No, Michael. I will not let you. Because I am not the same woman you left. The woman you left was dependent on your love for her happiness. The woman you left measured her worth by your desire. The woman you left would have taken you back just to avoid being alone. I paused, letting the words settle between us. But that woman is gone. You killed her when you walked out that door. And the woman who rose from her ashes does not need your love to feel whole. She does not need your approval to feel valuable. She does not need your presence to feel complete. Victoria. I am successful, Michael. I am powerful. I am respected. I am happy. And none of that has anything to do with you. I could hear him crying on the other end of the line, and I felt a flicker of the old sympathy. But sympathy was not the same as love, and love was not the same as willingness to be hurt again. I forgive you, I said, and I meant it. I forgive you for leaving. I forgive you for breaking my heart. I forgive you for making me feel like I was not enough. But forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. It just means I am no longer carrying the poison of our past. Please do not do this, he begged. Please do not give up on us. I am not giving up on us, Michael. There is no us to give up on. You made sure of that the day you chose her over me. I hung up the phone and blocked his number for the final time. The next morning, I called Zara into my office. I have a proposition for you, I said as she sat down across from my desk. The same desk where this whole twisted chapter had begun a year ago. What kind of proposition? She asked cautiously. I am promoting you. Director of Operations. Your own office. Your own assistant. Double your current salary. Her eyes widened in shock. Mrs. Hale, I do not understand. Why would you? Because you have earned it. Because you have worked harder than anyone in this company. Because you have proven that you are more than the mistake you made with my husband. I do not know what to say. Say yes. Take the promotion. Use it as a stepping stone to build the career you deserve. And use what you learned this year to never let anyone make you compromise your integrity again. She was crying now, but they were different tears than the ones she had shed a year ago. These were tears of gratitude and relief and possibility. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for giving me a chance to prove I am more than my worst mistake. We all are, I said. The question is whether we choose to learn from those mistakes or repeat them. 3 years have passed since that day. Zara is now the youngest director of operations in our company's history. She is engaged to a man who respects her career and supports her ambitions. She sends me a Christmas card every year with a handwritten note thanking me for teaching her what real strength looks like. Michael remarried last year. A woman his own age this time, someone he met at his grief counseling group. I heard through mutual friends that he tells people he learned the hard way that grass is not always greener, that sometimes you have to lose everything to appreciate what you had. I hope that is true. I hope he learned something from the wreckage he created. I hope his new wife never has to feel the way he made me feel. As for me, I am still CEO of Hartwell Dynamics. Still successful. Still single by choice. I date occasionally, but I am in no hurry to trust my heart to someone else. I am learning that happiness does not require a partner. It requires purpose, passion, and the knowledge that you are exactly who you are supposed to be. Sometimes people ask me if I ever regret not taking Michael back. If I ever wonder what would have happened if I had chosen forgiveness over pride, reconciliation over independence. The answer is simple. I did choose forgiveness. I forgave him, and I forgave Zara, and most importantly, I forgave myself for believing that another person's love was the measure of my worth. But forgiveness does not mean forgetting. It does not mean pretending the past did not happen. It does not mean opening yourself up to the same pain twice. It means choosing to let go of the poison so you can fill that space with something better. Something like the satisfaction of knowing that the woman who destroyed your marriage ended up working for you. Something like the power that comes from turning your greatest betrayal into your greatest strength. Something like the knowledge that when someone shows you who they really are, you should believe them the first time. Michael showed me that he was the kind of man who would abandon his wife for a younger woman. Zara showed me that she was the kind of woman who would help him do it. But they also showed me something else. That I was the kind of woman who could survive their betrayal and emerge stronger than before. He left me for a younger woman. The younger woman worked for me. And in the end, both of them had to live with the consequences of underestimating the power of a woman who refused to stay broken. That is my story. That is my truth. That is my victory. And if you found inspiration in my journey from devastation to domination, if my story reminded you that betrayal does not have to be the end, but can be the beginning of something even better, please subscribe to our channel. Because every woman deserves to know that she is more than enough, exactly as she is. Every woman deserves to know that her worth is not determined by someone else's ability to recognize it. And every woman deserves to know that sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to let someone else's choices define your story. Subscribe, and let us continue this conversation about strength, survival, and the spectacular power of a woman who knows her own worth.